Welcome to the next video in making Rogue. I'm going to be sewing up the bodysuit today. I usually use an overlock machine and a cover stitch machine to do the majority of the work. I also cut 1.5-inch bias strips. First thing we do is lay out the pattern to be cut. I'm using the Yaya Hand 4-way stretch spandex in yellow and green. The black strips you see are bias strips cut out of a vinyl coated black fabric.
There is a difference between the right side and the wrong side of this fabric. I personally like using this as the wrong side and this as the right side just because of the shine that this one goes off. This one is still shiny, but it has a little bit more of a matte texture. My piping is kind of a pleather coated, and I'm going to fold that in half and sandwich it between the two seams that I put together.
Before I did anything final, I did a test piece of how I wanted the piping to be stitched down on top of the spandex. You can see I tested different stitch lengths and stretches. Once I was happy with it, I went about piecing it all together. To do this, I folded the black bias strips in half and pinned them with the edges towards the edge of my fabric. Then I took the other fabric that would sandwich it, the green to yellow, and I pinned it to how you would actually sew up a regular seam. Then on top of that, I used my cover stitch machine to add a contrast top stitch to really give it a nice detail finish line. Once I have it all pinned down to how I want it, I take it to my cover stitch machine and stitch it down. That's a specialty machine that allows for a lot of stretch. I use woolly nylon on the bottom thread and a decorative thread on top with a stretch needle. Before sewing up any pattern pieces with decorations on top, I cut out the decorations, the X and the clavicle patch, and I actually hand tacked them in place. Tacking is different than sewing. You're just getting a general guide so it won't move when you take it to the machine. Now on all the seams, I actually use an overlock or what's called a serger machine. Basically, it's a specialty machine that uses 4 threads to work together to allow a little bit more of a secure and stretchy binding. I run woolly nylon through the 2 lower loopers and regular thread through the 2 upper loopers. One of the trickier things when you add piping to designs is to actually match up where the piping meets. Seam matching is hard by itself, but once you add piping to it, things become much more noticeable because of the heavy contrast. So you really want to take your time and match up your seams.
I am just extremely proud of how these seams are matching up. They're not 100% perfect. Like, it's off probably less than a 16th, but that's perfect up there. And then this one's just off. I'm just so pleased with how the seams are lining up. It takes a lot. I like pre-stitch them and then I serge them together, but very happy with them. I'm really happy with how the fit turned out. I like the green stitching on top of this black. I think that's a nice little pop. I thought about doing yellow for a hot second, but I thought that might just be too much. As you can see, I did a little tiny, I hand tacked these all in place, and then I did a zigzag stitch with the machine. I have to hand tack this bottom end of the zipper, and I'm going to do that with the woolly nylon thread. But then it's just a matter of putting the top boot cover in place.
Thank you for watching the latest installment in making my 90s Rogue suit. I hope it's been super beneficial for you and will help you in your future sewing endeavors.